So, Mayor Lee, we have invited you here to talk about your top three priorities for 2017. What are
Well,
they?
thank you, Gasia, and it's great to be here, Channel 2. And, I'm excited about the city of San Francisco. We're at a time when we're really strong economically. We're below 3%. We're 2.95% unemployment, if you can really realize that. And I have to harken back just 6 years ago when I became mayor. We had double-digit unemployment. We had kind of unsustainable health care and pension costs. But not all that's changed. And I'm at the helm of trying to build as much housing as I can. So when you ask me what my three priorities are, it's building more housing, particularly aimed at our working and middle class folks, because they're screaming that they're the talent of a lot of our businesses and they can't afford to be in the city. So I'm concentrating on that. I have a goal of 30,000 new and rehabilitated housing by 2020. And we're on a very good track. In fact, we finished 13,800 of those units just this past year, and over something along the lines of 42% of all that housing was affordable to middle income and low income families. So we're buoyed by that, and we're going to have a lot of help from the private sector. We're obviously stashing money for affordable housing in the government sector, and so we're bracing for it. But we continue to have a housing crisis. In fact, I think that's the same for San Jose and Oakland at the same time, and we're all trying to keep our talents within close proximity of where the employment is, and that's why we have a strong economy. But I've got to carry through this 30,000 units of housing. I'm excited because we have a good track record of keeping that. Second priority is homelessness and reducing homelessness for more people. We are going to eliminate homelessness for veterans by the end of this year, 2017. I'm excited about that. It's a commitment that I made to First Lady Obama when she was in office or in the White House with President Obama. And we made a deep commitment, but it was hard for us to get there because of the cost of housing.
How are you going to do that? What are they getting that they haven't been getting in past years?
Well, both a combination of new housing, expanded housing in Presidio Trust, for example, and also our constant effort to focus on rehabilitating in our old SROs, our single room occupancy hotels that have fallen in dilapidation. We're buying those up as quickly as possible, and then we're rehabbing them. We use funds from our general fund to be able to do that. And when it comes to our city, we're all united about getting veterans off the street. So we're literally 250 people away from ending chronic homelessness for veterans, and we'll be able to do that with identified projects by the end of this year.
Why focus on veterans instead of, say, homeless families, other struggling members of the homeless population?
That's the second category. In fact, you asked a good question, because the way to solve homelessness in general is really to tackle sectors of it. And so we began with what was a strong unity in the city of veterans. Now we're focused on homeless families. And in fact, we have a plan, and the plan is with the private sector. I know individual members of our business community, like Mr. Benioff and Lynn Benioff, are stepping up with a $10 million challenge. They're going to offer $10 million. The city's offering $10 million of a $30 million challenge, and the other $10 million will be challenged. And with that $30 million, we plan to end family homelessness in 3 years. And that doesn't mean ending homelessness. It means ending what has been chronic homelessness for families. That is, it takes over a year and a half for a family to find housing when they become homeless. And we want to reduce that to 30 to 60 days maximum. That's how you end family homelessness. And we're committed to doing this. Jeff Kaczynski, my new director of the new Department on Homelessness and Supportive Housing, is heading this up with me and with the Hamilton Family Shelter. Together, we're raising $30 million that is private and public dollars. And that $30 million will get us into rapid rehousing for our families. And then the sector that is the hardest to tackle, Gaza, is those that have and are experiencing mental illness, behavioral health, and drug abuse. That's the hardest. And this is where we're beginning to develop a blueprint for that. And it means working with the court system, criminal justice system. People coming out of jail are homeless for all accounts, and they're going to continue habits unless we change that. And so all of the criminal justice system has to be working with us and our human services system, but particularly the courts. And the reason I say the courts is because when it comes to mental illness, we have Laura's Law, which allows families to help us identify mental illness in their family and kind of surround their individual family loved ones with a good, strong support system in the health field. But it's still on the basis of voluntarism. And that means that people who are cleaned up, they go to our general hospital on a crisis basis, and they end up being cleaned up in 48 hours, as we often do, they're right back in the same environment. And so we're asking our courts to work with our public health department, work with experts in the medical field, particularly in behavioral health, to identify those individuals who can't really make those decisions for themselves, who have shown a history of repeatedly going through the emergency divisions of our city and ending up with the same prospects and the same bleak life on the streets that they have. So this is the hardest one. We're beginning to develop that blueprint, and we're going to need a healthy dose of relooking at what conservatorships are in the court system and working on that aspect, particularly with those that are victims of drug abuse and mental behavior. So homelessness is one that I'm excited to do because we are making some great strides. In fact, we're opening up 3 new what we call navigation centers. And Gasia, these are new centers. They're not the shelters of our past. And I was talking to former Mayor Gavin Newsom about the fact that these that we can't live with these shelters anymore because you're in and out, and there's nothing there to change and transform people's lives. With the Navigation Center, it's 24/7 attention to these individuals. They don't come in at their will, we invite them in. And the word on the street is, I don't want to go to your shelter, but would you take me to one of your navigation centers? Because at the heart of that promise is that they'll have permanent housing with supportive services at the end of their stay in a navigation center. 3 of them opening up this year. One right on the campus of our Zuckerberg SF General Hospital. It'll be focused, it's called the Hummingbird, and it'll be focused on those with mental illness on the streets. And we have some 20 to 25 beds that will assist directly in people that have behavioral health. We have another center at south of Market Street called the Soma Navigation Center, and that'll be targeting some 75 people who are chronically homeless. And then out of the good graces of the neighbors in Dogpatch, we have a 75-person navigation center opening up at 24th and I think it's Mississippi. And it was welcomed in by the actual neighbors that lived there because they wanted to be part of the solution. They're an intelligent bunch of neighbors who said they were not going to experience NIMBYism, but they wanted us to do it right. So 3 navigation centers, all with an attempt to get more people off the streets, but more importantly, to get them into a transformation period of their life so that they're off the street permanently and in a permanent housing. I'm excited about that because we have a partnership in a brand new department that we created. You know, we had 5 different departments that were touching homelessness for the last decade and a half. And I wanted a department with 120 people totally committed 24/7 to ending homelessness for every person that they touch. And this is the promise I've made to the citizens of San Francisco. It's not about moving people from one corner to the other. It's about having that solution. And I'm very proud that neighbors like Dogpatch and others are stepping up. And I'm asking every neighborhood to adopt a similar attitude. Let's end homelessness for as many people as we can do and get them off the streets. But get them into employment, get them into training, get them into less dependency on drugs. And let's find a pathway forward that is compassionate, but also mentally, health-wise, leaning on the expertise of our behavioral health experts.
How many